Hello, welcome. Today we're talking about fraud and prevention. If you've ever been a victim of fraud or would like to know how to prevent it from happening, you're in the right place. So grab your coffee. Let's go.
Welcome to Coffee with the Queens. You are in the right place if you have coffee and a tiara. Okay, as long as you have questions, you are in the right place. Join forces where queens of kingdoms come together to share successful stories and wisdom that made our digital kingdoms abundant. Take it away, Queen Tammy.
Wow, my doggy wants to be part of the show today. So,
we have another host.
We do. She'll come and join us shortly. So I was traveling recently, ladies, and I wanted to tell you this. It really struck me and it worried me because there was a little 18-year-old boy. Okay, well, a young man on a plane. I was on a plane. Airports are like ghost towns right now, in fact, which is odd enough. And this boy was talking to his mom and he said, "Mom, you are so exposed." And she just looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I can see everything you're doing on your phone right now, Mom, from my phone." Like he could hack into her phone or see what she was doing or get any information from her phone because of her settings on her phone were making her vulnerable and open to whatever could happen. And it really scared me. And I thought, could you take my phone? Like, can you help me too? So yeah, he helped his mom. He fixed the settings and gave us the phone back. And I just scared me. So I guess I have a question for you, because this is a big topic around, when we're building and protecting our kingdoms, have you girls ever had any, experience with fraud or, anything that's happened that you would like to prevent or help us share?
For me, it was my website. I remember having an argument with my webmaster. This was several years ago. And I went onto my website and it was gone. There was maybe a few trickles of words there, but literally gone. It's like, what? So yeah, it's like, I wish I had a contract or something, right? That they can't do that. What about you? What about you, Kathy?
Oh yeah. So I like you found my website destroyed. Because I have a website called DieSmart, and this site had been up for 2 years. It had 700 pages, all of our business set on this website, my shopping cart, everything. And all of a sudden, I got a call. "Why is your website red?" So I logged in, and all that was on my homepage was a red screen in a foreign language that said something. So I immediately called my hosting company, and sure enough, I was the victim of a bot. And these bots are just little software robots that are code that go searching all over the web for sites they can look and destroy the code. And because I was a WordPress site, it turns out that WordPress, which is 37% of all sites in the country, is particularly susceptible to these bots because they know what the code looks like. So they did a great job. Sure enough, it destroyed my content. So what I found out from the hosting company, back to how what can do, even though I thought I had my site protected, I had SSL codes, I had backup, I wasn't protected in the right way. The second thing I learned is that this is such a specialized software skill that you have to go hire a special bot repair company to repair the bot. So if you're looking for a side hustle that pays a lot of money, I recommend the bot repair business. So what happened is, I go into this. I have no idea if paying this bot repair company is going to get my site back, because you don't know the damage till you get the bot repaired. But it took me about $5,000, 3 weeks. And the good news was the site was still there. Once they got rid of the code that kept it from showing up, the site was still there. The site came back. But it was a really expensive lesson in terms of learning what can we do to keep these people out. And back to the other experience I had with fraud, back when we had people more than bots running around. When I was the CEO of a company, the FBI showed up on my door, and they said to me, "We think that one of the people in your warehouse has been stealing the credit cards of your customers." I said, "Is that right?" "Yeah." So what happened is, at that time it was Macintax, which is now TurboTax, and the common thread on everybody whose credit card had been hacked was a charge to Macintax. And that was their first clue. So they came, and sure enough, we discovered that somebody in the warehouse had been taking the credit cards. So back, what I think is really appropriate to what we're talking about today, that for most businesses, if the stats are right, 5% of our business is susceptible to fraud. And for a lot of us, it's learning all these things that we need to learn to figure out to have the right controls and the right processes in place. Another thing I found very interesting is, even though we talk about we're all going automated, they found the best deterrent to fraud within your company was to give a reward to people who give tips when they know people are cheating, because you're the employee, you're the boss, and you don't know it. So even today, in the world of high tech, the best place to find the best reward to get on top of this is put a hotline in, reward the people.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to help the bots, but that was a really interesting. We still are a human world. So I think that's really, for you, Sandra, you can introduce our guest and how he helps people.
And I wanted to say too, since you said it's still a human world, one of my clients, actually, I was fascinated by the statistics that she had when I was helping her with her message. And she actually goes into doctors' offices, and she said they don't realize how much money they're losing. Sometimes it's, things that aren't billed correctly by accident, she said, but most of the time it is somebody that is overbilling and taking the money for themselves. And she said, usually the saddest thing was, it would be the person at the doctor would say, oh, well, so-and-so's been with me forever. It wouldn't be her. And so it's betrayal at a very personal level for some of these businesses. And it can cause, as you were saying, like extraordinary. Small and medium-sized businesses are really susceptible. And the average loss for those businesses is something like $164,000 a year on average. I mean, that's no small chunk of change. That's a big deal. So it is great that we're talking about this, because our guest today is a crisis expert, among other things. He's a coach and a consultant. Dan Goodwin actually has a life before this. However, before he was bitten by the entrepreneur bug, he finished 19 years at a Fortune 100 company. We're going to have him talk about that, where he served as a regional security manager. While there, he conducted internal investigations, including fraud, theft, and human resource issues. And let me tell you, off camera, he shared some stories with me that were a little well, I had you guys cracking up at one point, right, when we discussed having him on the show. After Dan left corporate America, he started several businesses, including security consulting, real estate, coaching, and mentoring. In his current businesses, Dan uses his investigative background to assist business owners and corporate management teams research and obtain information to move their businesses forward. Dan's unique approach to research, engagement, and investigative techniques served him well as he draws upon the thousands of interviews that he has completed over his corporate and entrepreneurial life. So we are going to bring Dan in right now. He is trained in interrogation and interview techniques. Let's learn a little bit about what we can do to keep ourselves safe. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, thanks, Sandra. Thanks, ladies. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share with you whatever you feel would be valuable to who's your tribe, and however I can help. I'm here to share some tips and tricks, and then whatever questions you want to throw at me, ask me anything. I'm an open book.
Amazing. Before we get started, I just want to encourage everyone to engage with Dan, ask questions.
Yeah.
And the more engagement that we have, we choose a winner at the end of our show for a free prize.
Free stuff.
So please engage. Either go to the Digital Duchess Facebook page if you're watching there, or our YouTube channel, and engage on either place. All right.
Fantastic. So Dan, when you were in this company for 19 years, you were kind of all the info would come through you, right? I know that they took you all around the world to help with the investigations, and we don't say interrogations. What did you say that you had to legally say, that you were having a chat or a conversation with people?
I just went out and visited with people.
Visited. That was it. Yes.
That was the euphemism, right? I just was there to have a conversation and visit with people, try to get to the bottom of what had happened and why it had happened, and then figure out the how. So that was.
I think it's amazing the way you did have these conversations, though. I mean, and it's something that I think we could all maybe not learn quite to the extent that you did, because I understand you went to school with the folks that are in the FBI. I mean, you really know how to do this, but the way you would get people to admit their wrongdoing is you kind of had very strong suspicion, perhaps from people from inside the company, right, Kathy, as you were saying, that the people would kind of like be a tattletale and say, hey, this is going on. And you had pretty strong suspicion, but you actually led them to believe that you had absolute proof, and that's how they would put themselves under their own bus, right?
Well,
Pretty clever.
I can't give away all the secrets, but
But is it something that we like, if we have a suspicion that somebody, like, say, as I mentioned, my client who helps doctors, right? If a doctor sees that there's money missing, if there's something going on, he's suspect, what can he do to bring light to that?
well, that's a great question. So when we would receive information, when the investigations group would receive information, it was through channels. It was through it could be through the ethics hotline that was set up, which is anonymous, which makes life a little more interesting when you're running on an anonymous information, because then you have to go do the research to even vet, is this complaint valid, or do we just have someone that is, gunning for their boss or their coworker because they don't like him personally, don't like
Could be
him.
malicious. Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, but truly that only accounted for maybe 10%. And those were pretty easy to identify, because when you call somebody in and they say, okay, put up or shut up, tell me what you've got, tell me why you think this. And then it's a matter of research. So the first thing that a doctor, let's use your doctor example, the first thing the doctor would need to do was to identify, does he really have an issue? Are the books looking wonky? Does he need to get an outside accountant in? Does he need a forensic accountant? Where they move money, and Kathy mentioned this a while ago, when people are moving money around or skimming off the top or overbilling and diverting funds, there is a trail. You can't do that forever without being discovered, because there will be a trail.
And I have a question. What about credit cards? Now, there's so much fraud going on with credit cards. How can we save ourselves, pretty much? I mean, or can we?
That is, unfortunately, in an online world, and one that's got more online in the last 8 months, right? There really is. You have to monitor every single day. I log onto my bank accounts every morning, and I am searching for something that doesn't look right. There's a charge there. I'll check our household account, and I'll ask my wife, "Hey, did you spend X amount here?" Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot to tell you. And it's just, I've been burned before. I've had a bank account cleaned out. We have the stories, right? And it is the fraudsters. It's the scammers. It's the people that are taking advantage of people that maybe just don't have the awareness that maybe they once had. I've got a quick story. My dad had a stroke 3 years ago. One of the most brilliant minds that, I knew, because I always tell him, I know you're brilliant because you passed it to me, right? Anyway, family joke. But he had a stroke, and it impacted him the first 6 months. He bought a new computer, and he got one of those scam messages, in order to continue to use the software, you have to call this number. So somebody had gone into Best Buy and planted this malware, and he got taken to the cleaners for about $300. And the thing was, he was kicking himself so hard. He would, if he had not had the stroke, he would have never fallen for that. Never. So when you talk about people who have medical issues, maybe your elderly parents, your elderly friends, you need to be checking on these things. My mother-in-law is so paranoid. I mean, she's calling me saying, "Hey, I got this guy. He said he was from Amazon, and I need to do this." And I was like, "Yeah, give me the phone number. Yeah, give me the website, and let me do some research." So she has a built-in investigator for her anyway.
Yeah, wish we all had that. That would be great.
I did the same thing with my mom. She's been scammed a few times. It's exactly that. You need to upgrade this, and she does it because she believes it. And then she tries to get him on the phone to help. I say, "Oh, it's going to be $200 more to do this." It's like, no, don't stop paying that. They're scamming you. It's
Right.
tough.
I think a lot of our, I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I was going to say also, amazing. All of a sudden, we were all online. I saw this statistic in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that in the last 3 months, we have our e-com business, our online business has done what it would have taken 10 years to do. So all of a sudden, people who might not have been online before are online. And so all this data is just sitting out there waiting for somebody like my little bot to get a hold of. And so it's a real issue for everybody. It's a real issue for everybody.
I have another question. What about passwords? So
well, you ought to make passwords. You ought to make all your passwords just password. I mean, that's the key.
I have a friend who
For
does
the record, that is sarcasm.
That may be sarcasm. Yes. Yeah. And if you do that and get caught, just tell them Sandra D told you to do that. Right.
Also, not a good idea.
Password makers out there. What do you like? 1Pass and all this. What do you think about that?
I use one, and it's called LastPass. I use that to store all of mine. It's and my vault password is encrypted. It's only known to me, and my son knows where to go get it in case I get hit by a train tomorrow. He's my, he's who I turn to now, as he does what I used to like to do when I was his age, right? So, but yeah, you need to change them. And the more, if you can get auto password generators, the challenge with auto password generators, if it's not something that means anything to you, and you
never know
access to that password tool, then yeah, you may have a challenge getting back. It's just the hassle factor of resetting your password on any application or website that you forget, as you move forward. Yeah. But passwords, change them every 30, 60, 90 days. A lot of us don't change unless we're absolutely forced to change them. And we need to be a little more proactive than just being forced to change.
So Dan, a lot of folks that are going to be watching our show may be entrepreneurs or business owners. Maybe they just have a side hustle going on. But the point is, I think we all need to be aware that in any businesses, and the most common ways that people can lose revenue or get in this crisis situation is everything from billing schemes, like we mentioned with the doctor and that kind of thing, wire transfer schemes. Oh, yes, I've been a victim of that before. Expense reimbursement schemes. No, everybody's totally honest on expense reports. Whatever could that mean? Register disbursements, payroll schemes, check tampering, inventory theft. We don't think about that, but you know what? It adds up if somebody is just going in and taking stuff, or sometimes it's a bigger, more obvious situation, right? Financial statement fraud and corporate corruption schemes. All of these things, if this is ringing a bell with somebody or they think that there's something going on, you have 4 steps, right, to addressing a crisis. And the first one is, like we were saying, is evaluate what happened, right? You suspect something's happening, so you have to actually figure out what's your advice.
Yeah. So the first step under evaluate what happened is you have to acknowledge your feelings. And it's like, well, that's kind of weird. No, you need to blast through the 5 stages of grief as fast as you can, because you need a clear mind in order to walk through a structure, a construct of how you can evaluate what happened, and then practice your critical thinking skills, and then designing some sort of a response and a plan so it doesn't happen again, and then execute the plan so that particular incident never happens again. But the first step is you've got to acknowledge your feelings. And we are hard on ourselves when we miss something that looks to be so obvious, but we were in the heat of the moment. We assigned unearned trust to somebody that really hadn't earned it. A lot of entrepreneurs are very trusting people, right? Sandra, you and I, we'll work on this project together. And just because we've spent time on Zooms and we're in a couple of the same groups, I am assigning you trust that I may not take the steps to fully vet who you are, and vice versa. You need to vet who I am. There needs to be an accounting And we're so tough on ourselves sometimes because we missed what should have been obvious. And the truth is, sometimes we just got lazy. We didn't go through all the checklist to make sure that we were a fit. Because I will tell you, in my experience as a business coach and a consultant, business divorces can be messier than personal divorces.
Oh yeah, and highly emotional. Which is why you're saying address the feelings and head into the situation to remedy it. As you said at one point, I love this analogy. You said you go in and you stop the bleeding, then you have to go back and do the surgery to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But you can't do that if you're caught up in emotions. I mean, you have to acknowledge the emotions, as you said, but then, move through that. As you said, the 5 stages of grief, which is how you feel. You have this thing that isn't what you thought it was, whether it's your income level or whatever it is that you're going to be like totally affected by. You have to move through that and then kind of get down to business.
Yeah, it's bandage versus surgery. And the first thing you have to do is put the bandage on, clean the wound, put the bandage on, and then take a breath and figure out what is the next step. How do I excise this? How do I cut this out of my life? Or how do I make adjustments moving forward?
Yeah, yeah. So when you suspect somebody, obviously we can bring you in if we have an issue with our business and we have an individual that has betrayed us or, we strongly suspect. But what is the best way to start that conversation? Just because I know you've had experience in this. So if you have somebody on your team that you think is doing something wrong, how do you start that conversation without sounding immediately accusatory?
Great question. 90% of the work that I did on investigations was done before I ever left my cube on the campus, the corporate campus where I worked. And I would have a really good idea of the facts behind it before I stepped onto a plane or into a car or traveled to wherever I was going to go. The 10% that you're missing are the variables, probably the how and the why. So to start the conversation, and I shared this with you, Sandra, is when I walked into a conference room to meet with an employee, I always ask them, do you know why I needed to talk to you today? And then you just shut up. So the pregnant pause induces or creates stress. And what you alluded to, what you did in the introduction, Sandra, was you alluded to the purpose of how you ask questions and the words you use to induce or reduce stress. Because to get somebody to a point that they will speak against their own self-interest is art. There is a skill to it, but it's more of an art. And you must absolutely be in rapport with those people. If you haven't taken the time, if I come in gangbusters and I act like I'm the bad cop on the movie, I'm not going to get the information I need. In fact, I may get a complaint of, false imprisonment, and I may get they said I was mean. Well, I've been accused of that before too, right? But it is so important that you go into that dialogue. Do you know why I needed to talk to you today? And then you have to shut up. And we don't like dead air, and especially guys. We want the activity. I mean, women, listen, if there's any men watching this, women have got us beat on the intuition game. I'm telling you guys, you've got to look, you've got to absolutely ratchet it down and be comfortable with silence, because silence induces stress. So when you're talking to somebody and you suspect that maybe they are the wrongdoer, they need to release that stress, and they will always talk first. They will always.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're confessing first, though, right?
No. It has nothing to do with getting them to a confession.
Okay.
It's just creating. You're creating the neural patterns in their brain, so that they are assuming that the next question is going to be as stressful as the previous question. And you're dealing with people that have done something, or you are 90% sure they've done something that is causing you pain or loss of reputation, all the things that go within the business, loss of IP, intellectual property. So that's how you start. That's how I started the conversation. And it always led to some interesting situations in that I would hear the story about why they thought I was there to talk to them. And then after they got through and I was taking notes, I would say, great. I really appreciate you, Sandra, sharing that with me today. Now, let me tell you why I needed to talk to you today. And it's a left turn, right? It has nothing to do with what they just told me.
Right.
Wow.
So, and people say, well, you're manipulating people. You're tricking people. You're hypnotizing people. No, I am giving people an opportunity to share information that would explain what happened, their involvement, and the motivation maybe behind it. When you come and you deal with people, and you put yourself on the same side of the table, and I say, Sandra, I'm here today because I really need to understand what happened. And then, were you pressured to do this? Did you use bad judgment? Were you just in a weak moment? Is everyone else doing this? Because it's important for me to be able to communicate and share your side of the story with management so that they can make some decisions. See, I never hired people. I never fired people. I was like Joe Friday on Dragnet. Just the facts, man. Anyway, I feel like I'm preaching at you now. That's not
cool. No, I think it's really cool. And as you're saying some of these questions, I'm picturing like Law and Order, where I'm sitting and watching them across the table, talk to this person. And I hear that, and obviously there's an art to this, and you've been very deeply schooled in this with many, many years of implementation, much more than we could actually do on our own. But you do have something that you can give to us, so we can share with the audience that can help them. You did actually create, and I'm thinking, how in the world could you create an online course for people?
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your course and what we can share.
Well, okay. So I thank you for asking about that. So the name of my company is CYA Consulting, and people make assumptions sometimes. So CYA, just that stands for Cover Your Assets. I know in other parts of the country, and the only reason I'm teeing that up is because the name of my course is Don't Get Effed Again, and the F stands for fool. Don't get fooled again. Again, you may have heard that differently in your part of the country, right? So, but it really, the online course that I created is a section of what I call my masterwork. Think like an investigator, how to and why you should think like an investigator. But the Don't Get Effed Again is a very real-time, impactful. It's designed for people that are going through a crisis today, or maybe they just got out of a crisis yesterday, or maybe they just want to take a great inventory and overview their business so they don't ever have to go through a crisis. So the Don't Get Fooled Again course touches on some of the things that we've already discussed this morning, but it gives you a construct of how to actually work through issues one step at a time, so that you can mitigate as much risk as possible, knowing we will never, if you want to mitigate 100% of your risk, never leave your house, never do commerce, never do business, right?
True.
Gotta live.
So we're going to put the link to your course actually on our resource page, and possibly, if we can, even in the comments here. I was looking to see, I know you have some freebies that you could actually give too. I know you gave it to us. I was trying to put it into the comments area and discovered that I am not able to do so. But your freebie is free tips and things that is just textable, which is pretty easy. And I've done this. So you gave us a special little access today. And the key is, and I'll give y'all the number here in a second, or if Margie, if there's a way that you can our support. If you can type it into the comments, that would be awesome. We need to text Queens. Everybody knows how to spell Queens, I hope, to 913-357-5537. And then instantly, your system is really cool, Dan. Instantly it says, hey, I'm Dan, everything is going to be for me. And then you get tips and things delivered straight to you. So that's a freebie for everybody if you want to just get on board that way. So thank you, Margie, for typing it into the chat. I appreciate that. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's a double opt-in. So if you are not a part of that particular text tool, it will prompt you to enter your information, and then once you do that, it will put you on that list. And I'll be just sending out a couple a week. I'm not gonna.
Yes, you don't harass me.
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, people. So.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome that we have it on the stream right now. Text Queens.
Oh, very nice. I see it.
We love StreamYard for that. That's super cool.
Yeah, I like StreamYard.
That is super cool.
I wanted to comment on that because I know some people, they say that, yeah, I want to purchase this online, like on your website, but I just don't give out my credit card online. And I joke, I laugh out loud because it's like, but it's already out there. So what do you think about that when people say that?
I encourage listen, there's risk in any tool you use. So I use PayPal for my business purchases. I get to choose on PayPal to route it to a credit card, a bank account. The thing when you use PayPal for business, they're going to back you up. I mean, if something goes sideways, I think there's less stress doing in that way. And for me, it makes the accounting easier than trying to one-off a credit card. They used to have this tool years ago that you could create one-off unique credit card numbers for your bank account and use them have a one shot on a purchase. And I just haven't seen that anymore. And I just simply defaulted back to PayPal because it was easier.
Okay, I have like one of these gates, to enter my property that I can give like a 1-day code to. I can't even figure that out. So that's so not gonna be me, right? I'm just like, just let me know when you're here. I'll click it myself. I don't even bother to like reprogram anything. That's just way too complicated. My brain doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. But I want to thank you so much for being here. This was great. You gave us a lot of preventative things, a lot of things to think about. And certainly I think the most important thing is to be aware. And Kathy, if you and Dan, you back this up, is to be able to have access, for people in your group, in your team, that they have a way of coming to you safely and maybe even rewarded if they see that something is not looking, if you see something, say something kind of thing in the company culture, right? That's a good thing.
Yep. That's so important. And to hold people accountable and to take complaints seriously. If you're a business owner, if you're a leader and somebody brings you a concern, you don't automatically blow it off because they're ratting out on your favorite, your pet, the person that gets it all done all the time.
Right.
And I think I shared this with you, Sandra. I just finished a book called, Snakes, Selling with Snakes, and why psychopaths are drawn to entrepreneurship, to small business, because there's less controls. There's less controls. And it's just too attractive when you have somebody getting ready to scale up their business and we're looking to hire talent. It's very attractive. These people come off as aware, self-aware. They come off as experts. They come off with this
charming
resume, charming, very charming.
Not that I would know the psychopathic description at all from experience.
Yeah, you're way too comfortable knowing this, Sandra. What's going on there? So,
by one.
When they start scaling, they want more VAs, and a lot of VAs are now from like the Philippines, out of the country. And, I, for one, is reluctant to even go that route. I'm really afraid of that. So what do you think about that?
How do you vet somebody?
Yeah.
Well, you vet the company. You vet. So I've had people offer me VAs, and they've some of them been local, some have been in the Philippines. It depends on what piece of your business and what access they will have to the different pieces of your business. Mine, the one I've engaged, is more for the marketing piece. They're not into my financials. They're not into my CRM. They're not into any of that. I was looking, it's funny you bring that up, because I was looking for someone to help me with a very specific LinkedIn campaign. And I actually sent them money, and I gave them access to my LinkedIn. We were on a Zoom, and I shared the password. What they didn't say, and what terminated the relationship, is they turned off two-factor authentication on my LinkedIn, and I got notified of it. And immediately I changed the password and turned it back on. And then I called them. I said, "What's up? Why are you turning off?" Everybody needs to enact two-factor authentication for any website you use, and go through that second step. You will protect yourself doing that. So anyway, that was just no extra charge, Sandra. No
That is
extra charge.
so important. Yes,
Right,
I'm glad.
right. Just one last thing. The other thing that Tammy and I experienced, back to this betrayal and how do you protect yourself with VAs, is we were up in Montana visiting a friend, and he had hired somebody to help him with his website, his GoDaddy website. And there is a way, and all of these third-party companies, they're all figuring out how to give us, the owner, protection between us and our VAs. They're all adding something in those sites that you can go in and protect yourself. And at that point, when we first talked to him, there wasn't a way. So the guy went in, he gave him access rights to his GoDaddy. The guy went in, took his domain name, transferred it out of his domain and all of a sudden his domain is gone. Now, in the case of your domain, it's gone. GoDaddy has 30 days to get it back to you. And if you don't file a claim within 30 days, you just lost your domain, the content, and your business. So now GoDaddy has a way that when you give somebody access to your domain, there's a way that you go in and they come in as a guest, not as you, the account owner. And so we're working on something, but that's a real huge thing for anybody that's outsourcing their business. Back to what parts are you outsourcing? Because almost all these sites today have dealt with customers like me crying in tears, help me. And they've all figured out this is a real problem.
Yeah, that's the worst. Talk about emotional upheaval. That's one thing that does it, right? When all your stuff is gone.
Yeah, when it's gone,
it's time. And thank you so much, Dan, for being here. It's been awesome. We don't want to let you go. We keep coming up with things that we want to ask you. But that's one of the reasons that we can absolutely take advantage of what you've offered. And for those that are going through a crisis, definitely hop on to coffeewiththequeens.com. Check out the resource page there for all of our guests, and we will have his online course up there, which is a small investment considering what you could be saving yourself, or what you can be restoring back into your business if you're in a crisis at this particular moment. So thank you, Dan. Have an awesome day. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate all of you. And you know where to find me, Sandra, right?
I do.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. See ya. Thanks.
So that was cool. You guys feel a little more aware now?
Wow, what a topic. Yes.
Tingling a little bit, like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I love that you said to relax, just make sure that you're relaxed before you jump into something. And that's hard for us, because when we see something, it's like, what, $5,000 charge? You freak out, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've even had things where you see, hey, you're using this image and you haven't been allowed to use this image. And it was an image that was on, for me, it was on a blog post that was over 3 years old. Like I didn't even put it up there. I had a team member who was long gone that put it up there, and they wanted something like $3,500 or $5,000 payment for that usage of that piece. And it turns out that it was just a scam. But I mean, that's all those things can get you going, what, so it's good. Remember, I think the number one takeaway that I had from him, regardless of what could be happening in your business, is to let the emotions run quickly through the cycle and then address the issues, right? From a very pragmatic place. And that's where I think he's very good. Like his products and his tips are, I think, good for that kind of thing.
That's a big deal. We have a mutual friend that her whole YouTube was hacked early in the year. She had over 100,000 subscribers, so it was her livelihood. And she filmed her grieving process, And it did. It took, she filmed the whole thing each day, how she was feeling. And it took a good 2 weeks before she could pick herself up and move forward with it and go through all the emotions. She filmed herself crying. She filmed herself being angry. So it's really interesting and such a good point,
Being vulnerable, right?
Yeah, that's what happened when the bot hacked my site. It was the same thing. I was like in shock. And I remember calling up my hosting company, which I will not name, but they didn't, because this is such a specialized thing, they couldn't help me either. And I thought I had myself protected. I did everything they said. I had SSL, I had backup, and it turned out that wasn't enough. And you're just like, oh my God. You just, it's
well,
time. And I did this. It took me 2 weeks to figure out, I'm going to get my site back. I can breathe again.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think too, when we talk about the individuals in our business, to be very careful of that, and I think, the quote for today, which Tammy, you and I found, which I think, is very suiting when we're talking about the people in your business, and what he was saying, all of Dan Goodwin's history is like dealing with people that have kind of done wrong, and whether it was embezzlement or whatever, character is something that is so very important. And the quote for today comes from Norman Schwarzkopf. Leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. But if you must be without one, be without the strategy.
Awesome. Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
Has anyone been, is anyone going, we have to pick the most comments and engagement so we can give away a prize.
We have to give away.
Even though Margie is part of our team, she has not gotten any coffee, and she is overwhelmingly just given us some really incredible comments here today.
We had Kim too, but I think Kim left us. She said, I'll see you later. So I think Kim had to go.
Okay.
Louise,
if she had sound, she was
right.
Sound, yeah.
And Josette.
Josette is
Harold.
She's been a winner.
Harold was a winner. Yes.
Harold loved his coffee, he says.
He loved his coffee. We're waiting for a picture with you, Harold, with the coffee so we can put it on the website and the Facebook page.
Yeah, take it.
Getting yours anytime.
Already got mine. Cool.
Yeah. Right. Okay, we're excited to see you with a picture with. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we should maybe give to Margie. Margie deserves it.
I think Margie deserves some coffee because she's just been, her comments here just go on and on and on. And she's really was engaging today and really loved this topic. So Margie is going to be our winner, I think. Is everyone aligned with that?
Hey, she's our Gilman.
She is. She's our Gilman. She's our helper, but she certainly deserves it. She's a great coach as well. In her business. So
please, people that are watching right now, please tell your friends about our Coffee with the Queens. Let them know that the more they engage, the more they can win items too. And we're hoping to have even more engagement, to have a plethora of prizes to give away. So
yes. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is the Digital Duchess.
Correct.
Our Queen Tammy heads that. And don't forget coffeewiththequeens.com. You can find our resource list where you get discounts on everything that the guests have offered to us, including Dan Goodwin, our crisis expert that we had here today. Sound good?
So Tammy, why don't you put our banner down below so they could check us out at the Duchess Facebook page?
Yes.
Channel there.
Yes, that's a great idea. And we should mention about our special show next week, girls.
Yes, we have to. We have a special Thanksgiving show coming up. And as we're signing off, we're going to entice you guys to make sure that you join us, bring friends. We are going to have a special show with fun recipes and things like that. It's going to be a very special, very personal show. We look forward to spending that time with you. And for right now, we're just going to wrap it up. You guys have an awesome day. We're out.
Bye.